Right, and welcome back. Now, another catch up. What I've been doing now, since I've got the rear mudguard more or less sorted out in terms of where I want it, is to be thinking about the rear light. Now, I've ummed and I've ahed and I've gone through a number of different iterations on this. I don't want a side mount, which is the obvious thing to do with a bobbed rear fender. So let's have a look at some of the things that I've been thinking about. With the mudguard in place, of course, what I next need is a rear light. Now, my original plan was to use these rear struts and simply hang one off the back. So I bent a piece of steel with the intention to bolt it in here like this, so you've got the two bolt holes, and then to mount the light on the back. Now you can just so like that, because I had, now it is actually, it looks quite close to the back tyre there, but I've had the suspension off and lift it up and down, and it's, I think it's never going to hit. So I had this, one of these cheap Chinese lights that I had off eBay, and what I was proposing is just to sit it like that, with number plate on like that, and that would be the look. But frankly, it's not quite the look I had in mind. I might still go for it, and I might still find a use for these. So then I thought, well, okay, so maybe not those. Nothing wrong with these, I guess, but then the cheap Chinese lights, and I've no idea if they'll even work. And I think they've also got indicators in them. So it was a solution, but it's not really the solution that I wanted. So I changed my mind. One option was to change the light unit, so we get a different light unit. So one option was to use the same light unit that's on the back of the Bandit, and to have this here like so, bend a piece of metal so that I've got that mounted there like that. So that's a simple solution. I thought of that here, but I'm not a massive fan, to be honest. Plus, it's in the way of what I want to try and do. So yeah, it would work, but as I say, not a massive fan. So, different solution. And the alternative solution was to use another piece of the mudguard, used to sit here with a light unit on it. Well, I should say the number plate unit there, and the light unit here, and to actually mount it somehow down here. It doesn't quite work because I've got the clamp on it, but to mount it down here, which is sort of classic mounted down here, which is the classic sort of BMW GS position. much like Dell had on the Bandit again. And so now we have right. So this is pretty much the look that it's got at the moment. So Fender's in place. I've got a temporary clamp here. Now the weight of the saddle is partly holding on here, and there's a mounting point under here. So at the moment I'm happy. If I have two here, it'll support the weight of the seat happily enough, no problem. But what I want in the long run is be able to put the pillion pad on here if I want, or to have the rack on here, and that means I've got to provide some more support under here, because this is way too flexible as it stands to take weight. So that's a project going forward. That's going to wait a bit. But rear light. Now, before I get to the rear light, one change I have made to the bike, and I needed to make before I could finalise anything, is I've now got, as you can see here, I've got rear shocks, new rear shocks, progressive suspension, 15-inch, so they are a little bit longer than the previous ones, which will give me a little bit more saddle height. It'll change the stance of the bike slightly, but this is quite a common upgrade, so I'm quite happy that there are no issues with it, because this is a 98 Sportster. There's not an issue with the belt drive with actually raising it up a little bit, because it's the old style exhaust mounting, so that's all fine as far as I know. Let me just grab you an old shock and you can see the difference. Right, so this is the standard SE shock that was on here before. So as you can see, so that's where it would have been. You can see it's about 1.5 inches longer with the progressive ones. Yeah, hasn't got the fancy reservoir, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure it really matters too much for the style of riding I do. So that aside, the question was, how do I mount a rear light if I don't put on a side plate? I don't want a side plate because I want to maintain the slightly off-road feel for this bike, and to me off-road and side plates just don't go together, because as soon as you lay the bike down, which you would do, inevitably that side plate's going to fold. I could use one of the Harley folding side plates. That's an option. I may go that route sooner or later, but for now I have something else in mind. So I've still got these here, which I plan on using, and to mount it here. So my first thought was to try and again use a piece of flat stock, maybe both sides, bring it down and then mount across there with a bit of bracing here to hold it. I did think about trying to bring something off here, but there's no obvious mounting point, so I'm for the moment giving up on that idea. We'll see. So after playing with that idea, yesterday I was off clearing some rubbish off from my old house, and I picked up some bits and pieces from an old table, which gave me a piece of angle plate like this. And so I started thinking, well, actually if I have this, then I can mount it here, and I can mount the plate off this, and I can have a single mount. So that's what I'm playing with at the moment. So I've currently got a piece of angle which has been cut, sit like that. This needs to be shaped and so forth, and then the plate will sit across here. That's the plan. Anyway, at the moment. Now, so that's work in progress. One more change I did make, so let me come and grab you for a second, was whilst I was in the process of bending pieces of metal, I've made up a new bracket here for my latest slip-on, which I haven't had a chance to use in anger yet. It's a Tiger, so which are being made in Malaysia. I think it's Malaysia, or is it Thailand? I can't remember top of my head, but I quite like the look. It sounds okay from what I can tell in the garage, but really it's only when you open it up on the road that we'll see. But so that's a fairly heavy duty. There's a little bit of slack in the exhaust, but that's rather down to the spring mountings at the bottom, for which there's no support. Well, we'll see how that goes. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you again next time.